For today, I'm setting myself a challenge to prove this can be done. I've hand selected 5 different investments. These include index funds, business, art, individual stocks and cryptocurrency. The data suggests these are good investments during a recession. Therefore, after looking at each in detail, I'm prepared to put $1,000 of my own money into every asset so we can see the results together. However, this might not go quite to plan. I never thought I'd spend $1,000 on this.
No, get out of it. Look at that.
If you gave me $5 every day and I gave you $50 back, would you be happy with that deal? Of course you would. So why aren't you taking it? Let me explain. This leads me into investment 1, index funds. I'm giving this a 3 out of 10 on the risk scale as it's been delivering solid returns for decades. The figures don't lie. If you invest $5 every day, let's call that $150 per month into the S&P 500 at an average return of 8% for 45 years, then you would have $791,000. Now, according to Google, there are 16,436 days in 45 years. So now if we divide $791,361 by 16,436 days, we can see that every $5 you put in has turned into $48. That's pretty close to $50. Now I bet that's got you thinking about your $5 Starbucks frappe a bit more carefully. Index funds are seen as one of the safest investments over the long term. However, during a recession, they become even more appealing. This is because instead of betting on individual companies to pull through the tough times, you're purely investing in a long-term success of the whole market. Think of it like going to a horse race, and instead of putting all your money on one prize stallion, you decide to spread it across all the top performers. So now if one or a few of them lose, it should be okay because you will benefit from the others winning. This is a proven winning strategy. Over a 15-year period, 92% of the top hedge funds are trailing the S&P 500 index. I mean, these guys are meant to be the experts, but they are getting destroyed by a very hands-off investment which is so easy to manage. You may think the S&P 500 isn't very well spread as it's only made up of the top 500 American companies. However, as of 2017, only 70.9% of the companies that make up the S&P 500's revenue were from the US, so it's a lot more global than you might first think. But if you want to spread your money further, then there are lots of different funds that cover different countries and companies. I have some of my money in emerging markets index funds as I believe we're going to see a big shift in global powers over the next 5 to 10 years. Even though I also invest elsewhere for bigger returns, I always gradually buy index funds whatever the market's doing, be that trending up or down. There's multiple brokers you can use. If you're in the US, you can use public.com. I'm going to use my UK Vanguard account. Let's put $750 into the S&P 500 and $250 into a global index. There we go. All done. 88% of millionaires are self-made entrepreneurs according to Fidelity Investments research. So that brings us on to investment number 2. Business. I'm giving this a 3.5 on the risk scale, as unlike index funds, you could lose all your money in a bad business move. However, the power is in your hands, not someone else's. If you haven't started a business, then now could be the perfect time as we head into a recession. There's a good chance you'll be starting from your home and have minimal employees and very little overhead to maintain at this point. That combination puts you in a great position to provide an inexpensive solution and win over customers. In an economic downturn, businesses and consumers alike are looking to cut costs, which may allow you to break into the market. But your window of opportunity could close soon, as recessions are typically short-lived and followed by long periods of growth and prosperity. The period after World War II, for example, is considered the greatest expansionary phase in modern times. Similar points can be made for the years after the energy crisis recession, the Gulf War recession, the dot-com bust, and the Great Recession. Each recession was followed by a longer period of growth than the period of recession. The biggest mistake I see people making on a daily basis is putting all their money into assets they don't have direct control over. As you know, I'm not against the stock market. However, I don't think enough people value their skill sets. I was on a call the other day with someone in my free Discord, and he asked me an interesting question. He was making around $400 per month selling PDFs that help people in his country pass a state exam. He was wondering how he should invest that money to make more. Later on in the call, I discovered that he was currently only selling these templates with organic marketing, which proves there is a real demand for his product. If he just invested $200 per month back into paid advertising within his business, he could see an immediate return greater than any stock market investment. I think of it like starving a plant of water. You can't ever flourish in a drought. So if you've been overlooking business, then I implore you to dream big and prepare for the next expansionary phase. At the moment, I'm focused on growing my podcast, Strike It Big. We really need a way for episodes to be edited as we film them. That's why I'm going to invest this $1,000 into some new technology, which should save me time and help us post weekly episodes. Question: what do Picasso and Banksy have in common, apart from being era-defining artists? The answer is, you can invest in their work for a fraction of the asking price. That brings us on to investment 3, fine art. I'm giving this a 5 out of 10 on the risk scale. You might not have considered fine art as a potential investment. To be honest, neither had I, until I looked into the shocking stats. You know the S&P 500, that investment many millionaires don't stop banging on about.
S&P 500 index fund.
The S&P 500.
The S&P 500.
The S&P 500.
Well, contemporary art investments have actually done better than the beloved S&P 500 over the last 25 years. To be exact, the S&P 500 had a 9.5% average annual return, whereas contemporary art averaged 14% price appreciation. But surely, if we're facing a recession, the demand for these expensive paintings will drop, and then the value of our investment will plummet, right? Well, actually, the global demand held up pretty well during the last Great Recession. In 2007, global public auction sales topped $32.9 billion, while in 2008, the figures hit $28 billion. This only shows a slight dip in demand, and it was still higher than 2005 when auction sales were only $17.2 billion. Maybe more importantly, during 2009, Yves Saint Laurent's art collection set a new record for a single owner collection, totaling $483.8 million. To put this into perspective, this happened just 5 months after the complete collapse of Lehman Brothers and the markets. Again, if we look at our old friend the S&P 500, this didn't recover to pre-recession levels until 2013, 2 years later than the art market. Due to the eye-watering prices these paintings command, unfortunately this asset class has only been accessible to the already rich and powerful. There is also a degree of skill involved with picking the right pieces that the average investor just wouldn't understand. So, how are we going to invest this $1,000 in art? Well, I've been doing some research, and companies like Masterworks really stand out as they use data that isn't available to the average investor, and a top research team in order to determine which high-end artist markets have the most momentum. They're even asked by worldwide groups like Citi to collaborate on reports about the art market. This just shows how much comprehensive data they have. They help people get fractional pieces of art rather than the whole thing. This isn't NFTs, this is breaking a painting into shares so people can add a piece of it to their portfolio. Their incentives are also aligned with the investors, as Masterworks only make money when they sell a painting for a profit. With this said, I still think investing in art is for the long term, and that's why this platform doesn't actually accept investors that are older than 70. Oh damn it, looks like I can't invest this $1,000 after all. Only kidding, I still got plenty years left in me, you cheeky buggers. Masterworks aims to hold its art pieces for 3 to 10 years, at which point it then sells the painting and distributes the proceeds amongst investors based on their number of shares. But so far the paintings they have sold ahead of schedule have delivered 25% net returns for the last 4 years in a row through COVID, a bear market, and rampant inflation. Past performance is no guarantee of future results, but that's pretty incredible. So with that said, let's invest $1,000. I really like Mark Bradford's Promised Land. It even shows a progress bar that lets us know how much of the asset has already been bought. The paintings are valued every quarter, so I'll be keeping an eye on this closely. If you also want to get involved, then I'll leave an exclusive invite link in the description below. Imagine you invested $1,000 and woke up in the morning with $10,000. This is what most people dream of, and it's happened time and time again. with investment for individual stocks. However, I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10 on the risk scale, as finding the best stocks to invest in isn't an easy task. Investing in individual stocks gives you complete control over how your money is allocated. When you invest in index funds, you can't pick and choose the individual companies. Instead, you're stuck with whatever the fund decides to do. So stock picking gives you the ability to beat the market, but bear in mind that 90% of people lose money, hence the high risk scale rating. If you're interested in giving this a shot, then now could be a very good opportunity, as the market has fallen from the highs of the pandemic and there are lots of deals available if you can find them. During a recession, it's more important than ever to invest in well managed companies that have low debt, good cash flow and strong balance sheets. You're able the 6 steps that allow me to do exactly that, and they could do the same for you. Dreams.
I felt lost within myself, like I truly did not know what I wanted to do.
Finances.
I have to say I'm also a very erratic spender.
Investments. So should we compare how we done with investments? So what was Tom's total? Job secrets. And what would you ask in interviews when he says to you at the end, you know, have you got any questions? Side hustles.
I can show you something I've been working on.
Oh, you got one with you?
Yeah, I did.
You sneaked that in, didn't you?
I did.
And starting a business.
It's time to start pursuing my dreams. It's definitely a big thing for me.
This is a video you don't want to miss 1 second of. So grab some popcorn and enjoy. So it's so great to see you again, Tommy. I've been so looking forward to you coming back.
Yeah, no, it's good to see you as well. Yeah, I'm glad to be back.
If anyone watched the video before, we gave you $800 to invest, didn't we? And we want to see how that's gone. But the other purpose of today is to try and find a path for you to follow from this stage on. And I firmly believe that anyone can become a millionaire. I don't think everyone will become a millionaire, because some people don't want to take that path. I know I've said this before, but I'll say it to you again. You know, I've always thought you've got so much potential, without a doubt, and it's just finding that path for you to channel that potential on. I think that you haven't found that path yet.
No, definitely. I will 100% agree with that. I've sort of lost myself and who I am for quite a few years now. I got into like a really frustrating dilemma of where do I want to go? Like,
do you think that's a fairly common feeling of youngsters nowadays?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I think it's really annoying to be, because when you go to school and you learn a load of subjects, but then you get worried. You go, which path do I take? What if it isn't what you want to do? You know. And I felt like definitely with me after being at school, I felt lost within myself. Like I truly did not know what I wanted to do. Sometimes I didn't feel like I was good enough, that I was going to be stuck in a cafe job or something like that. And I think the worst bit was seeing my paycheck sort of get flushed away, because I wasn't feeling good about myself, and the only way I could feel good was to go out and party.
Yeah, and that feeling doesn't last very long, does it?
No,
you know,
not at all.
It might be that evening, and the next day you've actually got a headache, and you're going, oh, I've got a headache, don't feel good today, and I've blown all my money.
Yeah, looking at the bank in the morning, it's never a good thing. The past sort of 2 years now, I've been trying to sort of get myself on track.
It's a bit like a spider's web. You know, you're trying to get out from the middle, gradually working your way out. Oh, a strand's broken. So that could be, I don't know, I've been sacked from a job or something like that. So you backtrack a little bit, come along the edge and go up another one. And there's always a path out to that million. If I was to say to you, what's your vision of the future, where you want to be, I don't know, say by the age of 33, could you paint a picture of that life that you're going to have? You know, what car you've got, I don't know, what house you've got, whether you've got kids or not.
I think in about 10 years' time, which I'll be 33. Well,
it goes very fast.
It does go fast. Yeah. No, I see myself. You know, I do see myself having a family. I definitely want a Tesla. after seeing the Tesla. I really
They are good, aren't they?
They look so good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like a house with a nice garden, have a dog, maybe 2 dogs. Maybe a German Shepherd and a Husky.
Blimey, you're going to have to earn some money to feed them.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, I really, really want dogs. I think being just happy and stable. You know, I don't think you have to be like the richest man in the world. But again, you don't want to be struggling.
Yeah, because money certainly buys freedom. It doesn't buy happiness. There's quite a
No,
lot
of
of
course
people that have a lot of money that aren't happy.
Yeah.
But money certainly gives you the opportunity to buy time for yourself, which is
Exactly,
quite good. What I'm quite interested in understanding, and that's where the honesty comes in, is what is your current situation? How much are you spending, for example?
Well,
On a monthly basis.
Well, my situation, I'm currently unemployed.
Okay.
I'm doing some odd jobs here and there. Obviously, it gives me an income every month of around $400. I'm currently living at home with my mum.
Well, hang on. Don't be apologetic about that. You know what? The longer you can live at home, the better. Absolutely, the better. Your bills are low. Okay, you might want to get an apartment. Particularly when you get a girlfriend. Do everything you want.
Freedom.
Have a bath with the door open. You can do everything, can't you? It's amazing. But at the end of the day, all the while you can live at home, that's going to be the cheapest living that you'll ever get. Nobody expects you to live life like a millionaire.
Yeah.
So all the while they're not expecting you to live life like a millionaire. Don't.
Yeah.
You just don't need to. You don't need to look rich.
Is it Mark Zuckerberg?
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't dress like a rich man at all, does he?
Not many of them do they? You don't see Elon Musk in all the designer gear all the time.
Definitely not designer, but he definitely dresses smartly, doesn't he?
Yes, he's a smart guy, but he's not over the top, is
No,
he?
of course not.
A lot of people think it's about they want the designer clothes, they want the fast cars, the big house, the glamorous lifestyle, and partying every day. But the reality isn't that. The reality is they're buying investments.
Yeah.
They're buying property. They're running their businesses. They're becoming so financially free, and that's what they're about. Building that wealth.
Yeah.
The people that buy all this designer gear are the people that want to look rich. And why spend it on something just to impress someone that you don't even like?
Exactly. I think it's just a case of some people just want to prove themselves, don't they? And especially the richest of the rich, they don't need to prove themselves.
No.
And they can feel comfortable in wearing their own skin. Whereas,
Comfortable with what they are.
Yeah, definitely with a lot of celebrities and stuff, they make this big money from like a few records and stuff and then waste it on all Gucci and everything. And then
what's the point?
You never hear about them again, do you?
No, they're gone, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. One-time wonders.
What do you have left a month out of $400? I'm guessing it's not going to be that high.
To be honest, I have to say I'm also a very erratic spender. So, in all honesty, I wouldn't say I'm left with anything really.
The thing is that you're proving though is you can get by every month on $400.
Yeah, not even 400. I think I could get by on even just $100.
Yeah, but that's making it very, very, very difficult. So let's just take the proviso that $400 is proved you can get by on.
Yeah.
So any increase on that through work is, that's investable money.
Yeah.
Okay, what about things like credit cards? Do you have those or any debts of any sort?
No, none.
Okay, well, not having debts, obviously that's a great thing. Absolutely great thing. But not having a credit card, that's a bad thing because at the moment you're not building up any credit score. Okay. So, the first thing I'd say to you is definitely get yourself a credit card because at some point with aspirations and dreams, you're definitely going to want to borrow at some stage.
Okay.
Now, to be able to borrow, you need a credit score. To be able to borrow well, you need a really good credit score.
Yeah.
So if they give you a credit card with $1,000 limit, then only spend $100 of it, because that is a manageable amount and only on the things you were going to buy anyway. So I know you don't drive at the moment, but for example, for a lot of people, putting their gas on the card is a good way of doing it because they've got to buy it anyway. They can pay it off at the end of the month in full, and that starts building that credit score. It shows that you're able to handle your money. Okay. And then when it comes to getting a loan on a mortgage or on a car, preferably not a car, but certainly on an asset, you're more likely to get a better deal. So certainly one of the things I'd recommend for you straight away is to do that without a doubt.
So apply for a credit card.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay. Would I have to pay it back? So paying it back in full is probably the best option.
You definitely got to pay back in full.
Back in full.
Always. The other thing we need to look at, of course, is the investments.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm excited for this.
I am absolutely loving it because my inbox and our comments on all the videos have been, how has Tom done? Everyone's like, I can't wait to the next round so I can see how he's done. So basically you need to share that with me because I haven't seen any of this, have I?
No, you haven't seen, no.
I know you messaged me, didn't you? Because you weren't sure what this was all about when I gave you the $800.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think, didn't you say in the text that is it just the profits that are mine?
Yeah, I genuinely thought it was just the profits I was keeping. So
No.
obviously, to my surprise, you was like,
no, that's yours. I've
that's
given
all
you
yours.
that. Yeah, that's your little head start.
Yeah.
So that's what that's all about.
No,
just
of course.
to get you off and running, shall we say?
I'm really grateful for it, and obviously, just it brightened my day. Let's just put it that way.
Okay, well, as I said, hopefully it just well, that's nice to know. I mean, that's why we started the whole YouTube channel, was purely to try and help other people to see the possibilities, and if you can see the possibilities, then you can make it happen for yourself if you choose to do so. And of course not everyone else will, but if you choose to do so, then that's a great thing. And if you'd like to get involved, Webull are giving away free stocks when you deposit $100. I'll leave the link down below for you. And if you're in the UK or Europe, you can use code MARK212 on Trading212 and pick up a free stock. I'm really excited. I genuinely really excited about these because these have had a kick, haven't they? So
definitely.
I'm looking forward to this.
Right, I think we'll start with investment number 1.
Okay.
Which was S&P 500
Yeah.
index fund. So the return percentage was 3.4.
Well, that's very good.
The profit I gained was $6.77.
Yeah, well, that's a good investment because that's a steady investment.
Yeah.
It's a long term, so you're not going to get high returns every single month, every single year.
No, of
and
course.
you're looking to try and get, historically it is about 8%. That's when it starts compounding. So you get through about 10 years, 12 years, and the actual amount of money you're putting in is not as much as the interest that's going in quite often. And that's how this compounding thing starts going on. It's like a snowball going down a hill. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I'd just keep it rolling along and keep adding to it when you can. On a monthly basis is brilliant if you can, because you don't then miss the money. Which is a good way of doing it.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's a good hit straight away.
I'm happy it was a profit.
Yeah.
So, it's not a loss. So investment number 2 into Tesla.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, go on then.
So the return was 29.77%.
Oh, wow, we.
Yeah, so the profit I gained was $60.48.
And let's put this into perspective. That's in a month and a half.
That is in a month and a half. 100%.
I can see you're excited about it as well. So
I am
good.
so happy about it. I mean, I love Elon Musk. So obviously I was
He's a bit charismatic, isn't he?
He is literally the real life Tony Stark.
Yeah,
so
he is.
He's the real life Iron Man, and with all his other projects going on like SpaceX and
I can't get enough of it. I'm constantly on YouTube trying to find out when the next rocket launch is.
I know.
I'm so behind it.
He's trying to revolutionise the world.
I don't want to make myself sound old, but one of the things I really want to see in my lifetime is humans on Mars.
Oh, yeah.
Because my first memory as a kid, I was 2 years old, just over 2 years old, was man landing on the moon. So just seeing that on the telly and remembering my dad freaking out over it, we've not had that. No, in our generations, and I'll include you in that. So I can't wait.
Yeah, 100%. Even his ambition to colonize it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It just makes you think like the people that are going to go there eventually live there. They're going to have children. They're going to be the first Martians.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is just, and actually quite funny. We were trying to figure out what the name of somebody that would be born on the moon is.
Luna.
That's what I thought, but I don't actually know what it would be.
Lunatic.
Lunatic.
Could be any of those, couldn't it?
Should have seen that one coming.
So that's another great investment. So let's have a look at the next investment.
Investment 3 was Google. I don't know why, but obviously in the back of my head, I just went like, everyone uses Google. Obviously, they bought YouTube out like years ago.
So what's the best feature on YouTube then?
The like and subscribe button.
Yeah, and you got to smash that
Yeah,
like
you gotta
button.
Smash that like button.
Just to help out the old algorithm.
The return percentage was 18.9%.
For pulling one out of the park, that's
For
pretty
just-
good, isn't
for
it?
Just going
Yeah.
full Google. And then my profit was obviously $38.46.
Again, a blinding return, isn't it? I mean,
Exactly.
that moves us on to
The special one.
The special one.
I think this one's your favourite, isn't it?
Well, do you know what? I did a video not so long ago about, obviously, well, the same video really, about looking at lots of different investments. And, you know, I gave it quite a high risk level, the cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
And I think that was fair at the time, you know.
No, definitely.
And it's probably fair now. But my word, has that flown?
It peaks like when you least expect it.
I know, it's
And
unreal,
then,
isn't it?
and so obviously I'm going to tell you.
You're going to hit me with these numbers.
I'm gonna hit you
I
with
can't
the
stop
numbers.
smiling knowing that these are good. You know, they're all good, so I've got a constant smile
it's going
here.
really well. So return
Go on, big percentage coming.
68%.
Oh, my life. That is so good, isn't it?
68%, which means the profit I gained was $135 and $31.
That is amazing. Absolutely amazing, isn't it?
I'll tell you what, every time I looked at it, I was just like, go up, go up, go up. Or sometimes I'd just check it and it'd be a
Did you
massive
look at it
spike.
every single day?
I did look at it every day.
How, all right, how many times every single day did you look at it?
Like once.
Did you just once? I bet a few days you looked at it a little bit more.
Depends how, like, obviously depending on the day, like if I saw it and it peaked right up,
Yeah.
obviously I'd check it like a few times during the day just to see how much I'm gaining. But like, say if I saw it in a loss, I
Yeah.
wouldn't check it.
No, of course not.
No, I'd look at it, see the red, and then go like, nope.
Do you know, the thing is with this investment is look how excited you are.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you as well. You know, and this is the great thing. And the hardest thing with investing is starting.
Yes.
Just starting. You know, if everyone left school and was given $500 and said, look, you have to invest that. You can move it around all over the place. You don't have to add to it if you don't want to. And you can't have any of it for the next 5 years. All right? It would get everyone investing, wouldn't it?
No, of
Everyone would
course.
get the bug. Everyone would hopefully grow that money as well. And once they're understanding that will be such a great thing. Such
Definitely.
a great thing.
Yeah, I think it's because it's not something you get taught at school. No, is it?
None of
Well,
this-
course they're
none
not
of
gonna
this
teach
stuff
that,
is
that?
it?
It's definitely something that everybody should get into. I mean, I'm loving it. I mean, I really am. Like, did not expect it at all. Like, I obviously I watched it. You know, watching my friends do it and everything, and I couldn't understand it. I have to be honest, I could not understand it.
So should we compare how we done with the
yeah,
investments? Because
definitely.
I think Curtis has got the actual figures that compare with yours. So what was Tom's total?
Tom's total was $241.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
That is a lot of
Meaning
money.
you have over $1,000 now that is yours.
Wow. When was the last time you had $1,000? A little while ago.
Very,
Yeah.
definitely.
That's all right then,
Well,
isn't
that
it?
I kept, that isn't blown away. No.
Right, so I've got to add this little caveat to my one. From my very randomly selected investments, some of which were the lotto,
Right, yeah.
let's see how my one was.
You did $108.
Oh, damn, I've crashed and burned. That's amazing. So you've done really, really well there. How much work did you have to do to actually create that profit? In actual work?
Nothing.
That is pure
I
passive
just had to
income.
sit there.
Exactly.
I think the only bit of work is obviously if I want to put more into it.
Yeah. Well, the work
Just,
is...
What, it's two buttons.
The work is earning the money, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the work is earning the money to be able to invest. So generally, you know, for passive income, it either costs you money to create the passive income or it costs you your time. So your time investment to create the passive income. Now, I have swapped a lot of my investments around. I've actually piled every single one that wasn't working well into Bitcoin.
Really?
On the same day you invested in it. Now I haven't got the figures, but obviously even you can work from that.
Yeah,
That's
I mean-
that's big numbers. I've been absolutely flabbergasted at the amount of growth on that.
So crazy. I don't know. It's just.
But you've got to remember, it could be wiped out in one single fell swoop as well. So,
definitely.
you know, it's definitely a big balls game, this one.
Yeah. And especially those stories that have you heard all those stories about people that had like 60 million worth in Bitcoin and they just can't find the password to?
I know.
How's that?
I think there's even a story about someone whose hard drive got taken out by the rubbish, dumped because he'd finished with the computer, and now he's trying to get the council to allow them to dig to try and find where this computer has been buried in the landfill. How about that?
Joking?
No, and there's millions of dollars on there. Millions of dollars.
They're never going to find that, surely.
Well, they know roughly, apparently, where they dump everything. So it's just a case of getting the license and getting down there. But who knows?
And
It's just
somebody's
something
gonna
I
be
heard.
digging for a,
Well,
for
a little
hard drive.
while. Yeah, a little while, that's for sure.
That's crazy.
And if you want to get involved with this Bitcoin mania, then you can pick up $10 worth of free Bitcoin by using my link below for Coinbase. So at the moment, are you going to keep these investments exactly as they are, or are you going to move them around, or what? How do you feel about that?
I mean, I'm really happy with what I did. So definitely going to keep it into the S&P, and I think I just keep adding to that one. I think that's the smartest option, because obviously later on it will be a bigger investment in my life.
Well, most people have got 47 years of work in life, and if they were to put from 18 to retirement $200 away every single month until they retired, they'd have over $1 million.
Seriously?
Over $1 million. You know, I've quite often said, and to my wife as well, you know, like I put this money away. It's not for us to spend or ever use. And she goes, but it'll be a big amount of money. I said, yeah, it will. But I'm trying to make the money along the road to get where we want to get to. And, you know, that is purely insurance in case.
In case something bad
Just
happens.
in case.
Yeah.
And ain't a bad thing to have in the background, is
No,
it?
definitely not.
The next stage is really got to be getting yourself out there and getting a job, isn't it? So,
Yeah, 100%.
So what do you think you're going to look for at this stage?
I'm just trying to get any job that I'm qualified for, basically. And obviously it's also depending on the distance, because I don't drive.
Yeah, that is a bit of a problem, isn't it?
It's a massive problem.
Yeah, because
And
I'd give you a job tomorrow if you could drive to work.
I'm really good in a go-kart.
Well, that's debatable. How did you do when you raced me?
I came second, thank you.
Yeah, second, first loser.
Well, third.
Oh, we're going back down the grid now.
because it wasn't fair, because obviously you and my mate Sam were racing it out in front.
And where did I start that last race?
Where did you start? Did you start last?
I started in the pit lane because I said, look, I don't want to be on the front. It's no fun. I want to be going past all these people.
Oh my gosh. It was funny though. I have to say that was a really good birthday.
I mean, obviously you've got to apply for jobs. Now, personally, I'd say apply for anything.
Yeah.
Don't worry about what you qualify for, what you want to do. Just apply for anything that's out there. You know, because obviously we're over here in the UK, and the equivalent on minimum wage is about $19,000 a year. So, you know, to me, that's a job that's worth having. You know, all the while you've got that job as well. One, you're earning, but secondly, you're employed. When you come to someone else, if you come to me and you say, well, I'm actually currently working for someone, I know you're a worker, don't I? If you say, I'm sitting on my what's it, and I'm not doing anything, then, you know, how does that appeal to me? It doesn't really.
No, of course not. No.
Okay. What about in the interviews? I mean, interviews, you've got to ask certain questions. What would you ask in interviews when he says to you at the end, you know, have you got any questions?
I don't really ask questions at the. I think I do ask the questions during the interview, so I get a lot of my answers. Or sometimes I have a question, and it gets answered during the interview.
Well, the end of the interview, when I'm interviewing, is the most important part. It's your part to impress me.
Yeah.
Right? When someone says, "Oh, I don't know," no, I think we covered everything. It doesn't really work with me.
Engage you,
Yeah. Whereas if you came back with, you know, what prospect to start investing all over again, I'd do things a little bit differently. So if you can follow all 5 of these steps, then you'll be well ahead of me when you get to my age. Step 1, adjust your risk tolerance. In hindsight, I realised that I may not have taken as many risks as I could have during my younger years. The reality is that in your 20s, you typically have more time than money. This means that any risks you take have minimal downsides compared to those that have families and a mortgage. This is the time to build your empire, so being scared of taking risks is actually the most dangerous thing of all, as it means you'll fall short of your full potential. Of course, you should do everything in your power to swing the odds in your favour. However, you won't be able to eliminate risk entirely if you want to become wealthy. There is still going to be some risk in every opportunity, as nothing good ever comes easy. When times are hard, people are much more likely to let that little bit of doubt get inside their head and talk them out of whatever they want to do. I've seen countless friends say they're going to quit their job to start a business, but they never make that leap because they don't want to risk their comfortable income. When I'm judging whether or not to make an investment, I compare the potential risk with the opportunity cost of not taking that risk. Opportunity cost is what you give up when you choose one option over another. Thinking about this helps you make better decisions about how you use your resources. I'm not saying I always make the right decisions, but on average, I've come out profitable when I've used this tactic, and I also never want the thought of what could have been eating away at me. So the best way for you to grow your wealth is to take calculated risk with your money and use that time to grow your wealth faster than everyone else. Step 2, set it and forget it. I definitely should have automated my investments a lot sooner, as it forces you to prioritize your investments as the money is taken before you can spend it. This is when you arrange to have a fixed amount of money taken out of your paycheck or bank account every month and put into a predetermined investment. Investing $100 in an S&P 500 index fund is a good example of this. This will allow your wealth to compound over the years without you ever having to really think about it. This is a very straightforward process. First, determine how much money you want to save and from which account. Then go to an investment app and look for an automatic investment option and choose how you want to invest. They'll do all the paperwork. Once you sign off on the bottom line, the automated magic begins. In my experience, the majority of people that lose money when investing waste their time trying to pick the right stock at the right time. And if you've been watching my channel long enough, you'll already know that it's not easy to time the market. For me, investing is all about growing your money over the long term. ETFs allow you to invest in an entire market quickly and in a single transaction by tracking the performance of an index. You can choose to invest in specific regions like the top 500 companies in America with the S&P 500, the entire stock market, or even specific sectors like tech. Invest Engine is a Which recommended provider and is a platform that really resonates with me, as their entire focus is on long-term ETF investing. They offer ISAs, which are essentially fortified investing accounts protecting you from taxes. Because no one likes the tax man. With ISA accounts, you can only invest £20,000 per year, but any profits you make can be withdrawn completely tax-free. So I definitely recommend creating an ISA account with them and protecting your returns. If you sign up to Invest Engine today using my link, you'll receive a £25 welcome bonus when you invest your first £100. So you can get a 25% return on your money from the start. They even have an auto invest feature, which invest any cash that hits your portfolio straight into the ETFs you pick, so you really can set it and forget it. Thanks Invest Engine for sponsoring this portion of the video. Step 3, avoid temptation. I understand why people were drawn into the crazy crypto investments a couple of years ago, as this was similar to penny stocks back in my day. When there's a craze like this happening, lots of people feel like if they don't invest, they'll lose out on an amazing opportunity. So they start investing in things without fully understanding them. This has to be one of the most risky things that you could ever do, and it's probably the biggest investing mistake I see people making. I speak from experience. I made a few lucky investments in penny stocks when I was younger, and had I continued on that path, I would have lost everything. To be more exact, I had the opportunity to invest in a big group with a couple of billionaire friends. Everything they touched seemed to turn to gold. I can't reveal who sold over $5 billion worth of cars to the rich and famous, making him Britain's top supercar dealer.
I wasn't learning at school. I was called a dunce. Couldn't read. It was always my desire and my dream to be the most famous and the best at what I do, and that's exactly what we are today. This complex cost 10 million. The lighting system was 300,000. The lift was 275,000. This building's made with handmade bricks. The £2 a brick £2 a brick. We can at any one time carry stock from 40 million to 100 million. Money's not everything. Well, everywhere I go, money's everything. I founded this business on my own back. The business is worth well over 300 million today. As a mature man yourself and a successful person yourself, you're going to get doubters in life, and if you can't handle rejection, you're never going to make it in life.
This is the story of how a young man went from nothing to becoming a millionaire, only to lose it all and then go bigger and better than before, with his estimated net worth now sitting at around $1 billion.
Right, so today we're setting off to visit Tom Hartley. He sent me the address to his estate and I'm not really sure quite what to expect, but I am certainly very excited. I've always put my success down to passion, as I believe this is the key to pushing yourself past your limits in business and in life as well. So I'm really interested to see what Tom thinks. The next time you see me, I'll be sat down with the man himself. So did you ever feel different to the others at school?
I wasn't learning at school. I was called a dunce. I couldn't read. I wasn't interested. And I was told by a school teacher called Mrs. McDonald that I was going to struggle in my life. I'd start dodging school, and a friend of my father's who owned a taxi business, he was taking me to the auctions, and I'd watch what was happening because I was interested in watching cars be sold and bought and how auctions worked. So the first deal I'd done, I was just before I was 12 years old.
So you sold your first car at 12 years old?
I bought and sold my first car at 12 years old. I bought it from a guy called Billy Barty. He had a new Range Rover coming, and it was £1,950. I also knew a relative of my father's who wanted to buy a new Range Rover, and you couldn't get them. I put the deal together. It's called supply and demand. And I earned £250, and it was a lot of money. £250 in 1971 was a lot of money. And that was the start of the journey. So, some of the heritage here, over the years, I've enjoyed.
They're amazing, aren't they?
Yeah, you name anybody you want to name, they've all been in this office. There's no computers on here. It's a telephone, piece of paper and a pen. That's what I rely on. Everybody from Andrew Lloyd Webber to the Sultan of Brunei, Rod Stewart, Elton John.
Yeah.
They've all been here, they're all there.
So when you were a youngster, could you really see that you'd have all your family around you as well as these beautiful showrooms?
Yeah, I mean, I had a vision of that, and I'm living it now. I'm living my dream. My son Tom passed his driving test in a Ferrari, and they set up the full television station here and filmed it live.
Amazing.
From here.
Yeah.
Going away and coming back. He's 17-year-old.
So would you say the drive to be the best you could be is what pushed you forward?
Like everything in life, to be successful, you have to take risks. I broke a few rules at that age. I drove on the road at 14.
So did you get stopped by the police at all?
Yeah, I'd been stopped. I was 14. I drove a Rolls Royce. Back in the 70s, guys, when you got stopped by the police, the routine check is nothing like it is today. You could give your name to be Peter Johnston, 17 Main Street. They took that name and address down, and they said they'd write to you, and that was it. You never heard no more, because I was in such a rush to get to where I wanted to get to in life and in business, with the ambition that I had and the dream that I had. I wanted to get there quickly, and I had to break some rules. I discovered a loophole in importing cars. To an extent, it was like a cartel in the business. I was importing at that time probably 10 or 15 cars per week. When I was importing cars in 1978, you got 4.5 Deutschmarks to £1. So the point I'm making for you who can't calculate, I was able to buy cars from the factory, import them, and sell them to dealers in this country. It was just an unbelievable loophole I found at the age of 17, just before my 17th birthday. I was a self-made millionaire.
So it's classic territory. I recognise this Porsche. I had one of these back in the day from a Wales house. 1976 Carrera.
Yeah.
And this Ferrari here,
Yeah.
is this the most expensive car you've currently got on stock?
No, we've got a car down this tail, which is 3 million. This is 1.6 million.
So when you'd made that first million, was it all plain sailing from there on?
It just went crash. My world was turned upside down. I didn't lose $1 million because I gambled it or I wasted it. I lost $1 million because there was a technicality brought out because of my success. The manufacturers, the giants, BMW, Mercedes and Porsche, got together on this young kid, 16-year-old. They fetched a law out that you can only fetch one car, one person, and we're talking about a lot of money on deposit here, a big part of the million. Here is a young guy who's made $1 million and lost $1 million, and you're not 20 yet.
How did you feel when these car companies started ganging up on you?
I was overwhelmed because I was out of my control.
There are 40 money-making books that have really stuck with me. So in this video, I'm going to condense all of these books into the core lessons that will actually make you rich. And no, I'm not just saying this. I have experience doing it. I've gone from absolute zero to making tens of millions, and I didn't make my money on YouTube like most people on here. I did it running real businesses. So I promise that the things I'm going to share with you today will take you from $0 to $100,000, $100,000 to $1 million, and $1 million to $10 million if you apply them correctly. Level 1, going from $0 to $100,000. First, you need to master your mind. I didn't come from a wealthy background, and during my youth, I vividly remember people saying the phrase, money is the root of all evil. Secrets of the Millionaire Mind explains how these phrases program us to believe that rich people are the devil. It took me a long time to rid myself of the negative feeling in my stomach when I thought about making money. If I'd have read this book sooner, it would have helped me realise this issue earlier. Once I got over this hurdle, I had to ask myself, what is money actually for? For me, the answer was freedom. The psychology of money puts it a little differently and says it's all about control, but I suppose the goal is the same, to be able to do whatever you want, whenever you want. It also touches on how there's a clear difference between the rich and the wealthy. Wealth is what you don't see. The car's not purchased, diamonds not bought, renovations postponed, clothes forgone, and first class upgrades declined. Unfortunately, many people don't even believe that they can become wealthy. I remember my school friends saying things like, I hope I can get an okay job when I graduate. They weren't even hoping for a good one. The magic of thinking big explains that people are setting their finish line too soon and therefore never have a shot at being successful. While I don't believe that thinking big alone will make you successful, it's certainly the first step. I always struggled in school and felt like a failure. Interestingly, when I left and started working in the real world, I found that I kept winning. This was probably because I chose jobs I had an interest in rather than learning things I didn't care about at school. The Winner Effect talks about actual studies to back up this phenomenon. The book discusses how positive correlation has been found between successful stock market traders and their testosterone levels. Furthermore, winning increases the testosterone receptors in your brain, which causes you to win more in the future. That's why it's important to set those achievable goals and get those little wins every day. I believe that my struggles in school and my strong drive for success had a positive impact on my life. They left me with no other option but to push forward. Think and Grow Rich tells the story about a great commander. Despite being outnumbered by a far superior enemy, he burned his army's own ships, leaving them with no escape plan. This forced his soldiers to fight with everything they had, resulting in a miraculous victory against all the odds. It just shows there's a big difference between wanting to succeed and needing to. Being comfortable is just as harmful as having an escape plan. During a chat with Andrew Tate, he referred to this as one of the Matrix's tools. Unscripted also presents this idea. The author argues that society aims to transform us into model citizens, which stands for mediocre, obedient, dependent, entertained and lifeless. Avoiding this fate depends on how well you can manage stress. The essence of success gives us a helpful perspective on this. The book mentions that all the water that forms a fog that's 100 feet deep and 7 city blocks wide can fit into a small glass. Whenever I feel stressed, I like to imagine drinking this water and using it as fuel. Now you can develop great habits. Stress can also come from factors outside our control. For this reason, I've made a conscious effort throughout my life to only focus on things that I can directly impact. Atomic Habits reveals that many people fixate on the end goal, which they have no control over, rather than the process of achieving it, which is completely in their hands. I found the author's habit stacking technique to be particularly helpful for forming new habits. It involves pairing a new habit with an existing one, so both are completed at the same time. However, most people just keep putting things off and never form good habits. I know far too many people who just go through the motions without any direction, and before they know it, time has run out. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People stresses the importance of always knowing where you're going and thinking about how you want to be remembered. I know this provides me with extra motivation, but this is only one part of the equation. The 12-week year suggests treating a year as 12 weeks to create a sense of urgency. This really hit home for me, as I know I work best under pressure. Although short-term pain is often necessary for long-term gain, it can be difficult to remember this when faced with challenges. The art of getting things done emphasizes the importance of not relying on your brain to remember all your tasks. Instead, capture them on a phone or a notepad. This way you can organize your tasks without getting them confused, and you can also be selective with how you spend your time. Essentialism reminds us that for every task we say yes to, we have to say no to many others. Therefore, it's important to value yes and not be afraid to say no. After adopting these habits, you should start building high value skills. I've previously said that I don't like the advice, follow your passion. However, So Good They Can't Ignore You takes it one step further. The author interviewed many people who loved their jobs. He found that most of them didn't initially have a passion for their work. Rather, as they improved, their love for their work grew. So what skills should you start building if you aren't necessarily following your passion? The unfair advantage suggests that to succeed in an unfair world, you need to play to your natural strengths. Find what you're better at than most people and lean into it. However, it's no longer enough to just possess high value skills. Artificial intelligence is rapidly replacing many jobs. I'm using it more and more in my various businesses to complete simple tasks. That's why the ideas shared in Mastery are more important than ever. My main takeaway was that you need to develop a unique stack of skills that is nearly impossible to replicate. Still Like an Artist echoes this point when it suggests to copy from multiple inspirations until you have a mix that is truly original. Having this unique skill stack will give you the ability to earn a high income. However, that still won't mean you can build wealth without understanding the basics of personal finance. When I was younger, I had a mentor named Dave who taught me about how the rich manage their money. The biggest lesson I learned, which is also shared in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, is that everything we buy is either an asset or a liability. To figure out which one it is, we simply have to ask ourselves, is it putting money in our pocket or taking it away? Of course, if you want to be wealthy, the aim should be to buy as many assets as possible. But lots of people don't see the value of investing. Let me ask you this. Would you rather have $3 million now or a penny that doubles every day for 31 days? The correct answer is the penny, because it actually turns into $10.7 million. The compound effect uses this analogy to demonstrate the power of investing and gaining compound interest. Once most people get their head around this, they get very excited but end up jumping into the markets without really understanding anything. That's what happened in the pandemic. Everyone thought they knew what they were doing, but it was just a massive bubble waiting to burst. That's why I've always followed the principles laid out in the little book of common sense investing. It states that trying to beat the market is a losing game. Instead, you should own the entire market. You can do this by investing in something like the S&P 500 or a broad market index fund. Interestingly, over a 35-year period, only 1% of mutual funds could beat the market by 2%. This means that index funds are a clear choice for the average investor. Although, as I do find them pretty boring, I also like to invest in more interesting stocks with a smaller part of my money. Whenever I do this, I keep in mind that the market is irrational. As the intelligent investor puts it, you should imagine a person coming to your door every day called Mr. Market. One day he may offer you $2,000 for your stock, and the next only $500, even though the company may be doing better than ever. This is because the price of the stock is based on demand and not the actual real world value. I only buy stocks if I'm prepared to ignore what Mr. Market says for a long time. Another phrase I live by is, if you love the store, chances are you'll love the stock, which was shared in One Up on Wall Street. This means if you've got a lot of experience of a company or product, you might actually have a bigger advantage than the pros when it comes to investing. Before we get to the next level, I have to make one thing clear. Reading books on investing can provide you with theoretical knowledge, but to truly succeed in investing and build wealth, you need to put that knowledge into practice. So if you are going to invest, you need to make sure that you're using a tool that provides you with all the necessary information to make informed decisions. This is where today's sponsor Moomoo comes in. If you're interested in building wealth, then you're really going to want to listen to this. It's a powerful investing platform founded in Silicon Valley with over 20 million users worldwide. You can trade stocks straight from your laptop, iPad or smartphone, whether in the United States, Australia or Singapore. You also don't have to worry about commission fees and account minimums. I personally really like the free tool they offer, which allows you to see what famous institutions are investing in and what sectors are performing best. As a beginner, you can also practice your trading ideas with a demo account before entering the market. If you sign up today using the link in the description, you can receive up to 15 free stocks, each worth between $3,000 and $2,000. That's an amazing deal. These free stocks can help you start building your investment portfolio right away. Level 2. $100,000 to $1 million. Now that you've fixed all your internal beliefs, to make the next leap, you'll need to know how to generate more value than you can from just selling your time. We're taught to go to school, get good grades, and then get a high-paying job. However, when you do this, your earning ability is capped. Cashflow Quadrant outlines 4 distinct ways to earn money. E for employee, S for self-employed, B for business owner, and I for investor. Business owners and investors have the advantage of using other people's time and money to build their wealth. That's why it's crucial to move to the right side of the quadrant if you want to become rich. But what does it really mean to be rich? Well, the 4-hour work week explains this best when it says that relative income trumps absolute income. To understand this statement, let me ask you a question. An investment banker earns $500,000 per year working 80 hours a week. On the other hand, an e-commerce entrepreneur earns $40,000 per year but only works 4 hours per week. Who's richer? If we look solely at absolute income, then the banker is clearly making more money. However, if we consider the time worked, the banker earns $120 per hour, whereas the entrepreneur earns $200 per hour. To take it one step further, the entrepreneur can actually already live the retired life that the banker dreams of, as he can operate from anywhere in the world. I'll take the entrepreneur route any day of the week. 0 to 1 states that the first step to starting a business is betting on a contrarian truth. This is the basis for most successful businesses. For example, Netflix had to bet on the fact that people wanted to binge watch TV shows at home, and Airbnb had to believe that people would be willing to stay in a stranger's house. For many people, the biggest hurdle is coming up with an idea. However, this is often easier than you might think. Disrupt You outlines an effective method, which is to write down 3 things that annoy you every day and think about how they could be done better. By doing this, you'll have 90 ideas to consider each month. When you have an idea, don't be afraid to share it with people that can help you. People tend to be too protective of their plans, but the truth is that an idea alone is usually not that great. The lean startup emphasizes the importance of execution and the use of the build, measure, learn feedback loop. This approach ensures that you don't create something nobody wants and allows you to pivot and adapt your idea as you go. There was an interesting study conducted on 108 new businesses across 30 industries. Out of these, 92 businesses chose to enter red oceans, while 16 adopted a blue ocean strategy. A blue ocean refers to a market that has little to no competition, while a red ocean is named so because of the fierce competitions between competitors. The study found that 39% of profits came from businesses in competitive markets, while 61% of profits came from those that used the blue ocean strategy. Furthermore, these businesses went on to dominate their industries for 10 to 15 years after launch. A good strategy for creating your own blue ocean is to become oversubscribed. Consider Ferraris. Many people want them, but not everyone can have one. Yet the people that run Ferrari aren't losing sleep over this, as they know that this scarcity keeps demand high and the car's highly desired. Every oversubscribed product has people who are willing to buy it but can't get their hands on it. When I'm driving up demand for my products, I always remember the core lesson from Breakthrough Advertising. This book is actually the most expensive book in the video. It states that you can't manufacture desires. Instead, your job is to create a product that fulfills. I'm going to be gifting her $1,000 as well as arming her with the knowledge she needs to take the plunge as a complete beginner investor so she can start her journey to becoming rich and financially free. There's an old saying, be the person you needed when you were younger. And that got me thinking, sometimes with investing, the hardest part is just making a start. So if you're thinking about investing but find the whole process a bit daunting, or have started and want to find out some more, then this is the video for you. We're going to be going through everything step by step, from personal finances and taxes to investment strategies and actually setting up the core account. So make sure to watch to the end so you don't miss out on some great investment knowledge. We'll get started as soon as you hit that like button for the LTube algorithm. So Laura, what do you think when I say the word investing?
I get a little bit scared. I know it's the way to go. I'd love to learn a bit more about it and put my money in the best place, but if I'm honest, I don't really know much at all.
Well, it's normal to be a little bit scared, that's for sure. Judging by our analytics, not many girls are that into investing. Why do you think that is?
I'm not really sure why that is, but I'd like to learn a bit about it and show that it's possible for anyone to do, use it as a way to get rich.
Well, it's not all about getting rich, it's more about building your long-term wealth, but we'll get into that later.
What? I was here to get rich.
I'll tell you what I can do. How about this? I'm going to give you $1,000 to invest in anything you like.
That sounds really good, thank you. Let's get going.
I think we should. Let's dive in. People always say to me that they'll get good at managing their finances when they earn more money. But the truth is, anyone can go broke, even celebrities. You know, take Michael Jackson, for example. He was the king of pop with an estimated estate value of over $236 million when he died. But he left debts of over $400 million. So Laura, how would you say your finances are at the moment?
I'd say they're okay. I don't look into them too much. If I want to go out for a meal with my friends, I'll spend the money. But I do try to save about half of what I earn. I just don't really tend to track it.
Okay, well, tracking is a really good idea, and it's really easy nowadays to track your money using some of the apps that are available, and by tracking it you'll tend to spend less, so that's always good. But do you have any credit card debt or anything like that?
I don't. I spend my money on my credit card, but then I do pay it off every month.
That's great. You've been watching the videos, haven't you?
Yes.
It's always best if you use your credit card because it'll help you build your credit score. And if you pay it off at the end of every month, you're going to pay no interest whatsoever. And it's a win-win.
Oh, okay. So why is building your credit score so important?
Well, at some point in the future, you're going to probably want to borrow, be that for a house or for a business. You never know what you want to borrow for. And if you've got a good credit score, it's going to cost you a lot less in interest fees, and you're going to find it easier to borrow in the first place. So that's why it's so important to build a good credit score.
Oh, okay.
Taxes are something we should all care about, as at the end of the day, why would you want to give away more of your hard-earned money than you absolutely need to? When it comes to investing, in most cases, you are required to pay taxes on the profits that you make. This is called capital gains tax, and it's between 10 and 20% depending on your income. It's really important to minimize the tax you pay in these areas, so you're able to invest more for your future. And there are two really simple ways that you can take action. Now, the first is to open up a tax advantaged account, and the second is to start some sort of side hustle or business so you can write off all your expenses.
Why is a side hustle a good thing to have?
Well, it's all about when you pay your tax. If you get paid $100, for example, from work and you want to go out for a nice meal, well, it's all well and good, but you've already paid your tax, haven't you? So if that's 20%, $20 is already gone. Now, with a side hustle, you get your $100 and you want to go out for a meal, you can go out for a meal and you can then write that off. So when you come to pay your tax, you've got less money to pay your tax on, so you get taxed less.
Is that like bad?
No, it's 100% allowed because you're having a business dinner, you're talking business, and that business needs to be done over a dinner, so that is an allowed thing.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I have been thinking about doing a side hustle for a while now. I think that's always something I've wanted to do in the back of my mind, but I haven't actually got around to it. It's just deciding what I want to do. I've been thinking about a lot of things, like I love seeing how people can do like Gymshark modelling on the side and being a bit of an influencer. That sounds amazing to me.
It's extremely important to research any investment before throwing all your money in. So Laura, have you heard of any before, and is there anything you've invested in?
I haven't invested in anything. Obviously I hear a lot about like cryptocurrency and stocks and shares, but it's all like a completely different world to me and I don't know anything about it. But I know that my money isn't very good sitting in my bank account. I want to do something with it.
Well, your money sitting in your bank account is actually losing you money because you're probably earning about 0.1% interest per year, and that literally is nothing. And with inflation at more than that, around about 2 to 3% a year, that's actually losing value year on year.
I think the thing that I was looking at doing is buying a buy-to-let or something.
Okay, well we can discuss that and run through the main investments which are good for beginners in order of least to most risky. So you can then decide what you want to do with that $1,000 I gave you.
Oh wow, okay. So the less risky it is.
Generally the less reward,
Okay.
but the higher risk.
The better the reward.
Now, an index fund, simply put, is a basket of stocks. So instead of buying hundreds of different stocks separately and having to manage them all at once, you can buy into a simple, low-cost index fund.
Do you get to choose what stocks they are?
No, you don't get to choose what stocks they are, but you can choose from a lot of different index funds.
Oh, okay. And does it matter what country you invest in?
Back when I was younger, I might have gone for an index fund based in the UK. But of course, nowadays, with the invention of the internet, of course, these companies in America, they are absolutely global. So they're always looking for more growth, be it in China, Australia, wherever it happens to be. So by investing in these American companies, you've got a global player there, haven't you? And they're passively managed as well. So there's not a manager there. It's all done automatically. That's why the costs are so low.
If I invest all my money in like a risky one, could I then lose it all? And it sounds like a silly question, but could I lose more? Could I go in debt or something?
Well, when you invest, your capital is always at risk. You have to remember that, but hopefully over the long term it'll be good. Now, unless you leverage your money, you can't actually lose more than you invest. So if you invested, for example, $100, the most you can lose is $100. However, if you leverage your money and bought things on margin, then of course you could lose more than you actually invested.
Okay, what does leveraging your money mean?
Well, leveraging your money is when you borrow money against your investment, or it's also known as margin. So for example, if you invested in a share, say you wanted to buy $100 worth of shares, but they were offering you 2.5 margin, you could actually have another $250 to go with yours. So you'd actually have an investment of $350. Of course, then you could lose that whole $350. Next is investing in yourself with a side hustle or further education. This is a low risk because the power is in your hands. Starting a side hustle has limitless potential returns, which is exactly what you want when you're trying to build wealth. So does this sound like an option to you?
Yeah, it sounds really good to me. I like the idea of investing in myself, not just getting my nails done and eyelashes done, obviously, but doing things like university, but it's kind of, you don't see the return straight away.
So how have you found that coming from university into the workplace?
So I feel like just with my degree didn't get me a job. You have to have other employability skills as well, and a lot of places often want a lot of experience and a lot of time in things that I haven't had time to do. So I definitely see the value in investing in yourself and enhancing your skills to make you more employable.
You've also thought about and mentioned side hustles as well, so of course you can invest into that.
I do love photography, a bit of videography. My mum's friend had a wedding and she didn't have a photographer, so I hopped in last minute and managed to do that, do a bit of video as well.
And did you do that as a paid job?
I did it for a bottle of gin. So,
So you're cheap then, that's what you're saying, aren't you?
No, I did it for free.
Well, sometimes that can be a really good investment as well. When you do a job for free, you're building up a portfolio. And again, quite often you need to do 3 or 4 jobs to build that portfolio up. So when you do want to charge people, you can show them exactly how good you are. Next up, we've got individual stocks, which are a medium risk. An individual stock is investing into one specific company. For example, Amazon would be considered an individual stock. The returns can be higher as it brings more exposure to one investment, but stocks can go either way. So I only invest in individual stocks with high conviction.
So a stock with high conviction, does that mean that it's going to give you a big return and that's why you invest in those ones?
Well, what it means is that you've done your homework on the individual stock. You've looked into the fundamental analysis of the company and you can see that it should give you a high return over the long term.
So fundamental analysis, that sounds a little bit complicated.
Well, actually it's not complicated at all, and you can find out all this information on Yahoo Finance, and you can pull up the company you're interested in and look at their balance sheets and things like that, and their profit and loss and where the company is going. And also it's important to look at the leadership of the company as well.
Okay.
Next we come to real estate, and I'm putting this as high risk for beginners, as real estate often requires a mortgage, which can mean taking on quite a substantial amount of debt. However, real estate is a great way to accelerate wealth and often performs really well during inflation.
I've always looked at Airbnb and I'd love to do that kind of thing.
If you're looking to do Airbnb, you've really got to make sure that that property can stand on its own without that platform, because